This simple truth can transform your finances and put you on the path to reaching your financial goals. What is it? Well, you'll have to stay around and I will tell you in just a few minutes. My name is Michael Baker and welcome to The Wealth Technique. This is a YouTube channel that I've created to help people build their wealth, protect their wealth, and grow their wealth. And I appreciate you joining me today. I try to do these lives once a week to talk about various things. And today I want to talk specifically about money. That's right. I want to talk about money and the ways you can actually use money. I know that sounds like an oversimplified topic, but believe it or not, money is it's simple, but it's not easy, right? A lot of folks really struggle in their financial lives, or they feel like they can't find a breakthrough to just get above just getting by or get to that next level in their financial goals. And so today I want to talk specifically about a very simple truth when it comes to money. But before we dive into that, I want to talk about the uses of money. All right. So let's talk about actually what are the ways that you can actually use money. In truth, there's only about 4 ways we can really use money. We can use money for our lifestyle. We can use it for what we want for our life to live, our bills, the things we want to do. We can use money for what we owe, like our debts and taxes. We can use money for our generosity goals. We could use money for our wealth goals. Really only about 4 main uses of money. There's a curriculum with the Kingdom Advisors, the Certified Kingdom Advisor curriculum, and they refer to this as live, owe, grow, and owe. And, I really like the simplicity of it because there's really only 4 ways we can use the money: for what we live, what we owe, to grow, and, basically to cover our lifestyle needs. So I want to dive into each of these specifically a little bit. Lifestyle. This one's tough, especially here in America. One of the things that I often will say to folks is our culture, our society has been phenomenal at training Americans to be champion consumers. In fact, if you look at some of the economic indicators that we talk about in how well our economy might be doing, we talk about consumer spending. We talk about consumer confidence. How is the American consumer doing? Because our economy runs on consumption. We have really taught people how to be champion consumers. And what comes with that? Well, the constant idea that we want to get more, be more, achieve more, have more. More is the word. And so many of us can get caught up in what we call this hedonic treadmill, where we start to achieve various levels of success, but every time we increase or every time we do a little bit better, it starts to feel normal to us. So we lose objectivity with how well we're actually doing, because we look around and we're looking ahead and saying, you know what, I know I'm doing well, but I'm just not quite where I want to be. And I need to push a little bit more. I need to push a little harder. I need to earn a little more. And we get caught up in that cycle, that trap. And our society loves it because it feeds right into that consumption. In fact, just doing research on videos for how to help people with money and wealth. If you type in wealth, so many of the graphics and the images are immediately just stacks of cash or piles of money or money raining from the sky. It's almost as though the only thing we think about when wealth comes to mind is not relationships. It's not, our health. It's not our overall satisfaction with where we are in life. It's just money. And I think that that's a huge mistake. What we owe. Let's talk about what we owe, right? Our society also, we talk about taxes, but so much of our consumption is driven by debt. So much of our consumption that we or training ourselves to be champion consumers is funded by debt. The easiest reference to look at is just our federal government. Our government runs on deficit spending, which just by nature says that we're not being very good stewards with the money from a federal level, because we're receiving trillions of dollars in tax revenue, but we're spending even more than that. So I don't know that we're actually being good stewards, but it's easy to point the finger at the federal government. But the truth is no one from the federal government, at least not yet, comes to your kitchen table and says, how are you being a steward of your own money? So if you're watching this, I want you to think about how you are being a steward of your own money. Not just are you being wise with your tax planning, because that's a huge thing, but are you being wise with your use of debt? Are you being wise with how you're using leverage to consume other things? Your vehicle notes, personal debts, debts to, make improvements to your home. All of these can be an okay use of debt, but are you using debt wisely? A big one that I like to talk about, especially when it comes to leverage, is student loans, because so many people are struggling with student loan debt. And I often encourage families, I encourage young people, when you start to look at the idea that you want to take out debt, you want to take out a student loan, what are you wanting to do? Do you even know what you want to do? Do you know what you want to study? Because I think taking out debt to go to the right school and have the right education can be wise if the expected return on that, if the expected career path, earnings potential shows a justification for wanting to take out a huge amount of debt to go to school, right? If you're going to go into pharmacy school, if you're going to go into some type of specialty medical field or technical field where you have significant earnings potential, that might be a wise use of student loans. So think about what you owe. Then the last two, wealth and generosity. Generosity gets talked about a lot at church on Sunday, but in your everyday life, how are you using your money, your resources to be generous? How are you, helping others? Are you using with your time, your energy, your talent, or your money? One of the things that I hear from people a lot is they would love to be more generous, but it's tough because they feel so strapped financially. And the big one, of course, this is the wealth technique. We talk about wealth. How do we build and grow our wealth? Well, it's time for the secret sauce of finance. And so I'm going to bring this up, and I'm hopefully you'll talk you through it in a way that makes sense. But to me, one of the secret sources of the secret sauce of personal finance is actually something called margin. So I want to talk about margin. And I put a graphic up on the screen, and I've got margin highlighted in green because obviously we've got our four main uses of money, to live, owe, grow, and give. Those four main uses of money: our giving, our taxes, our debt, our expenses. And then we have this idea of something called margin, like what is left over for you to pursue those personal financial goals. Do you want to fund an education for your kids or your grandkids? Do you aspire to be financially independent? Are you planning for retirement? Is one of your goals for you to be debt free? Do you have a charity that you want to support? Well, the way that you work towards each of those goals is you've got to first have some type of margin, some type of free cash flow, something that's not obligated to go somewhere else. Unfortunately, this is how most of us look. Most of us, when you examine our cash flow, we have lots of debt, our expenses are bloated, and that leaves very little margin. So you see our goals, our ability to reach those financial goals can be significantly constrained by the fact that we have or don't have any margin. Giving tends to be non-existent because we don't feel like we can afford to give because we're struggling so much to meet these other things. Taxes are always present if you have earned income. You know, you may not make enough money where you have to pay federal taxes, but I'm hoping that you do. But the big ones are debt and expenses, our debt and our lifestyle, our use of money. So I want to, my thing is a little crazy. I want to try to drive this home. It's simple, but it's not easy because I feel like the culture we live in kind of conspires against us. Our culture wants us to be champion consumers and not champion savers. And so anytime we're talking to people about money, especially when it comes to planning with your finances for the future, we've got to have margin. If your goal is to retire one day, we've got to have money that we could put aside for the future. If your goal is to build wealth, well, we've got to have capital. You've got to have capital unless you're one of those few people that's fortunate enough to inherit money. Most of us are going to have to find a way to get ourselves a way of saving capital so that we have resources we can use and put to work to try and build wealth for our loved ones, for our family, our financial goals, those things that we want to pursue. But the biggest ways that I know how, the biggest and most fundamental ways that I know how to coach anybody when it comes to building their wealth is you need to examine your lifestyle. You need to examine your uses of debt because those are the two main things that suck margin right out of your cash flow. Where you find yourself, where you earn a lot of money, you're doing well financially, but it doesn't feel like it because your money is already committed to these other things. It's already committed to credit card payments. It's already committed to debt payments. It's already committed to, going to taxes, or it's already committed to these lifestyle things that you've signed up for. So an easy way that you could do with this is at least twice a year. I recommend once a quarter, every 3 months, sit down and examine where your money is going. Look at things objectively. Are you spending money on things that you don't use? Are you spending money on things that you don't need? Because again, in another video, I talked about how we often will buy things emotionally. We will make purchasing decisions emotionally and then try to justify logically. So this is what I'm saying. Go back after that emotion has passed and once a quarter, examine how you're doing with your cash flow. Create savings goals for yourself. Create ways or goals for margin. How can you create more margin with your income, with your cash flow that can help you pursue these other goals? So like I said, it's simple, but it's not always easy. And so think about how you're using your resources, how you're using your cash flow to build your wealth. Does this make sense? Let me know in the comments or shoot me a note. Tell me, what are your ideas on ways to create more margin, more cash flow, more free cash flow in your life? Drop those in the comments and let me know. Also, give us a like if you thought this video was helpful. Give us a subscribe to the channel. I want to do more videos like this to help you build, protect, and even transfer your wealth. Thank you for watching. My name is Michael Baker. This is The Wealth Technique. We'll talk to you next time.